The shuttle landed with a soft thrum, barely disturbing the dusty surface of the royal moon of Eloria. Ryan Hale, the human engineer, stepped out cautiously, feeling the strange cold air brush against his face. He had worked on many off-world stations, but this one was different. The palace shimmered in the distance, made entirely of translucent crystal that reflected the light of 3 suns. It was beautiful, yet fragile. He could feel the pulse of energy humming faintly. It's almost like the moon itself was alive. "Stay calm, Ryan," he muttered to himself, adjusting the straps of his tool belt. "It's just another job." It had been sent by the Earth Galactic Council to check the stability of the palace's energy grid. A minor seismic storm was predicted tonight, one that could rattle the delicate crystal walls. Humans were known for their unusual biofields. Something about their natural energy flow seemed to calm the resonance in alien structures. The Elorians had specifically requested a human engineer inside the palace during the storm. And now Ryan understood why. A figure appeared at the palace entrance, framed by the radiant light. She was tall, her skin glimmering with soft fiery tones, and her hair seemed to float as though it had its own life. Her eyes were sharp, violet, and intense. She moved with a grace Ryan had never seen. This was Princess Saranya, the heir to the Elorian throne. "Human," she said, her voice clear and commanding.
Ow.
Yet there was an underlying tremor, almost fear. "You will sleep with me tonight." Ryan froze. His mind struggled to process what she had just said. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He glanced around, half expecting someone to laugh and say it was a joke, but no one was around. The princess's eyes met his, serious, unwavering. I don't understand," Ryan managed finally. "Sleep with you." Saranya's gaze softened slightly, though her posture remained straight. "You misunderstand. This is tradition. During the storm, royalty must share a chamber with someone who can stabilize the crystal energy. Your species has the gift. If you are not present, my palace may collapse. My life is at risk." Ryan's tension eased slightly. This was not what he thought it was. It was a job, a duty, a life-saving duty. I see," he said carefully, trying not to show his nervousness. "So you just need me in the room?" "Yes," she replied, though she hesitated. Her eyes flicked toward the towering palace behind her. "But you must understand, it has never been done before. No outsider has entered the royal chambers during a storm. Not even my guards." "I cannot do this alone," Ryan swallowed. He had faced dangerous storms, malfunctioning starships, and alien wildlife. But this, standing here in front of a royal princess, expected to sleep in the same chamber, was new. Yet, he reminded himself he had a job to do. Lives depended on it. "All right," he said finally, straightening his back. "I'll do it." Her expression softened, almost relieved. "Thank you, Human Hale. You may not understand how much this means. Please follow me." They entered the palace together. The walls glowed faintly, crystal panels humming in response to their movement. The corridors seemed alive, reflecting light like water, twisting and bending the view of the floors beneath them. Ryan had to take small, careful steps. One wrong move could set off the delicate energy resonance. Saranya led him to the royal chamber. The room itself was enormous, tall ceilings that arched like crystal cathedrals. The floor, walls, and even the bed seemed crafted from the same translucent material, refracting the light in millions of tiny sparkles. Ryan had never seen anything like it. "This is the chamber," the princess said, motioning to the large sleeping area. "You will sleep here. Not on the bed, there is space prepared for you near the energy core." She pointed to a glowing pedestal at the center of the room. "Your presence will calm the crystal's resonance. My advisors insist it is the only way to survive the storm."
I nodded,
stepping carefully toward the pedestal. "Understood." She studied him closely, her gaze intense. "You do not fear?" she asked softly. Ryan chuckled nervously. "I've been in worse situations. This is just a new type of challenge." Saranya seemed to consider this. For a moment, she looked vulnerable, her usual commanding presence softened by the storm approaching. She sighed quietly. I have never shared this room with anyone. I am expected to appear strong, unafraid. I cannot show weakness. Yet I fear tonight. I cannot admit it to anyone else. This was not about duty or tradition anymore. She trusted him. She trusted a stranger, a human she had just met, because she had no one else to rely on. Then you're not alone, said simply, though he felt a wave of responsibility wash over him. I'll stay here. We'll get through it together. The hum of the palace grew louder as the storm approached. The walls began to vibrate faintly, and Ryan could feel the energy shifting. He stepped onto the pedestal, as instructed, and focused. His own biofield, calm and steady, seemed to blend with the palace's natural resonance. The vibration decreased almost immediately. Serenia watched, astonished. No human, she realized, had ever done this so naturally. Her eyes widened slightly, admiration flickering across her face. Minutes passed. The storm began outside. A soft rumble shook the palace, growing louder, echoing through the crystal corridors. Ryan remained focused, feeling the energy flow around him and through him, stabilizing the crystal chamber. He glanced at Serenia. She was tense, standing near the edge of the room, watching the walls carefully. You're doing it, she said quietly. It is working. Ryan nodded without breaking concentration. Just a few more minutes. Stay calm. The storm worsened. Thunder-like vibrations reverberated through the palace, sending small tremors across the floor. The crystal walls rang faintly, like enormous bells. Ryan felt the hum of energy spike in response. He realized then how fragile this place truly was. One miscalculation, one panic, and it could shatter. Serenia stepped closer. I'll thank you, she said softly. Not just for your skill, but for being here. I could not face this alone. Ryan turned to her, surprised by her honesty. You're welcome, he said. You wouldn't have to. But I'm here now. Sudden tremor shook the room. A faint crack appeared along the far wall. Ryan's heart jumped. That's not natural, he muttered. The vibrations didn't match the storm. Someone had tampered with the palace. Serenia stiffened, her eyes wide. Someone. They want me harmed. Ryan moved swiftly to the crack, examining the energy lines running through the crystal. Yes, this is sabotage. Whoever did this amplified the natural resonance to make the palace unstable. Her face paled. They want me dead. Ryan shook his head. Not if I can stop it. He knelt, working with his hands to stabilize the affected area, using the tools he carried. Sparks of energy danced around him as he corrected the pulse of the crystal. Serenia watched, amazed. He was risking himself, enduring the strain, to protect her. No Elorian would have done this, not even the bravest knights. Minutes stretched. The storm raged outside, but Ryan's presence calmed the chamber. Slowly, carefully, the cracks sealed, the vibrations lessened, and the palace hummed steadily again. Serenia exhaled, relief flooding her features. You saved me. Ryan stood, wiping sweat from his brow. Just did what needed to be done. She studied him for a long moment. No, she said finally. It was more than that. You put yourself at risk. For a stranger, that is something no Elorian has done for me before. I did not expect this. Ryan shrugged lightly. Humans are stubborn that way. We look out for those we can help. Her expression softened. She stepped closer. I invited you to this chamber. Not just for the tradition. I needed someone I could trust. I could not admit my fear to anyone else. You? She hesitated, then looked down. You are the first human, and perhaps the first being, I have felt safe with. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest. He had never expected admiration from a princess. But he realized it was not about him. It was about the trust she placed in him, the vulnerability she showed. It was an honor unlike any he had received before. The storm began to fade outside. The palace walls stopped vibrating. The hum of the crystal settled into a steady, peaceful rhythm. Ryan stepped back from the pedestal, letting the natural energy flow continue. Saranya let out a long breath and looked at him, a small smile forming on her lips. "Human, tonight you have changed everything," she said softly. "Not just for me, but for my people. You have shown courage, strength, and care," Ryan interrupted gently. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because it needed to be done, and because you trusted me." Saranya nodded, her violet eyes glimmering. "That trust I cannot repay easily. But know this, you have my gratitude, and more. From this night forward, humanity is not just an ally. You are a friend to Eloria." Ryan allowed himself a small, humble smile. He had faced storms on distant worlds, fought through countless dangers, but none had been as challenging as this, saving a princess and calming a palace with nothing but presence and resolve. The night passed with quiet peace, the storm now only a memory. Ryan sat near the pedestal, feeling the gentle hum of the palace, while Saranya stood by the window looking at the calm sky. There was still fear, yes, but also hope. They had survived the storm together, and in that moment, Ryan realized something he hadn't before. This was more than a job. This was the beginning of something greater, an alliance, a bond, and a story that neither human nor Elorian would ever forget. The morning light filtered softly through the crystalline windows of the palace, scattering rainbows across the walls. Ryan Hale had slept little, not from discomfort, but from a heightened sense of alertness. The storm had passed, but the memory of the trembling walls lingered in his mind. He walked carefully through the corridors, noticing small fissures along some panels that had not been visible the night before. It was clear now, the storm had not been entirely natural. Someone had tampered with the palace to amplify the vibrations. To put Princess Saranya in danger, Saranya appeared at the corridor's end, her figure bathed in the soft morning glow. Her eyes were serious but calm, reflecting a combination of respect and relief. "Ryan," she said quietly, "last night, you saved more than the palace. You saved me. I cannot thank you enough." Ryan shook his head. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because it had to be done. But," he paused, glancing at the walls, "there's more to this. The storm was not natural. Someone sabotaged the palace." Her eyes widened slightly, concern flickering across her delicate features. "Sabotage, that is. Impossible. Who would dare?" "I don't know yet," Ryan admitted, "but I will find out." Saranya hesitated, then nodded. "You have my support. If anyone can uncover the truth, it is you." Together, they moved deeper into the palace. The corridors were quiet, almost eerily so, and the usually shimmering walls now bore faint scratches and discolorations that betrayed the damage from the storm. Ryan examined each energy panel carefully. His human engineering knowledge allowed him to detect anomalies invisible to the Elorian eye. "There," he said suddenly, pointing to a small, almost hidden emitter behind a crystal panel. The device hummed faintly, emitting a subtle energy that had destabilized the resonance. "This is the source." Saranya approached, her violet eyes scanning the device with curiosity and fear. "How? How did someone place this without anyone noticing?" she asked. Ryan frowned. "It would have required skill and inside knowledge. Someone who understands the palace's energy grid intimately." Her lips pressed together. "Then the threat is closer than I thought. Someone within my court." Ryan shook his head. "We'll handle it. First, we need to make sure this emitter cannot harm anyone again." He moved quickly, dismantling the device with careful hands. Sparks flew, and a low hum filled the room, but he worked steadily, allowing the energy to stabilize as he neutralized the device. Saranya watched in silence, admiration growing in her expression. She had never seen a human approach danger so calmly, so determinedly, without hesitation or panic. "You are remarkable," she whispered. Ryan looked up briefly. "I just do what must be done. Anyone would have acted the same way if they could." "No," she said softly, shaking her head. "I have seen many Elorians face danger, but none have done what you did last night, and now this. You risked yourself without thought of reward or recognition. That is extraordinary. For a moment, Ryan felt a sense of pride he rarely experienced. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, dismissed as simple or fragile. But here he was, standing in a crystal palace on an alien world, facing threats that even the most skilled Elorians could not handle. And yet, his mind was focused not on recognition, but on survival, protection, and trust. Serenia stepped closer. "Ryan, may I ask you something?" "Of course," he replied. "Why do humans? Why do you risk yourselves for strangers? I do not understand. Most species act out of fear or self-interest. But you helped me without hesitation, without expecting anything in return." Ryan thought carefully. "I suppose humans value connection. We look out for others because we can, because we understand that we are stronger together. Sometimes it is easier to act than to question why. It is instinct, in a way." Her eyes softened. Instinct. Or courage. Perhaps both. The conversation was interrupted by a soft tremor beneath their feet. Ryan immediately checked the walls. The palace is stabilizing now, but this confirms one thing: there may be other devices. Whoever did this knew exactly how to manipulate the energy grid. Serenia's expression hardened. "Then we must find them. If one device was planted, there may be more." They moved together through the palace, inspecting the most critical chambers and corridors. Ryan's careful attention to detail revealed small irregularities, slight misalignments in the panels, faint scorch marks where energy had leaked, tiny scratches that suggested someone had moved carefully but deliberately. "It's clever," he remarked. "Someone who knows the palace's inner workings, yet moves with precision to avoid detection." Serenia's voice was quiet but resolute. "Then we must be cleverer. I will not allow harm to come to this palace or to my people again." As they worked, the bond between human and princess grew. They spoke less formally, discussing their lives, their experiences. Ryan learned that Serenia had been trained since childhood to be strong, unyielding, and composed at all times. She had never allowed herself to feel fear openly, and responsibilities often left her isolated. "I have guards," she admitted once, her voice almost a whisper. "But even they cannot protect me from every threat. They follow orders, they act. But they do not think as we must in moments of unexpected danger. That is why I invited you into my chamber last night. You were the one who could calm the palace, and perhaps the one who could calm me." Ryan nodded slowly, understanding her meaning. "You trusted me." "Yes," she said, looking down briefly. "I did, and that trust is not given lightly." Their inspection continued through the morning and into the afternoon. Each chamber revealed more subtle signs of sabotage, and Ryan carefully neutralized each anomaly, ensuring the palace's energy remained stable. As they worked, the sense of partnership grew. Serenia began to see him not just as an engineer or a human visitor, but as a person she could rely upon. Someone whose courage and honesty were rare, even among the bravest Alorians. At one point, Ryan paused, examining a panel that had been nearly invisible to the untrained eye. "This is clever," he said. "Whoever did this knew exactly where the critical nodes were. They wanted maximum damage with minimum detection. They counted on the storm to cover their tracks." Serenia frowned. "And yet they underestimated you. They underestimated humans." Ryan smiled faintly. "It seems so." Hours passed. The palace, once trembling under the storm, now hummed with steady energy. The walls reflected light calmly, as if acknowledging that the danger had passed. Yet both knew this was only the beginning. Whoever had tried to harm the princess would not stop easily. Finally, they returned to the royal chamber. Serenia moved toward the window, gazing at the calm surface of the palace grounds. "Ryan," she said quietly, "you have done more than I imagined. You have faced the storm, neutralized the sabotage, and saved my life. I am grateful beyond words." Ryan shook his head. "I only did what was necessary. That is all." "No," she said, turning to him. her violet eyes serious and unflinching. "It is more than that. You risked yourself without hesitation. You did not ask for reward, for recognition, or for thanks. You acted with integrity. That is something rare. That is something worth remembering." He felt a warmth he had never experienced. He had been trained to be calm under pressure, to act logically and efficiently. But hearing her words, seeing her trust, brought a different kind of satisfaction. "I thank you," she continued softly. "Not as a princess, not as a ruler, but as a person who has found someone she can rely upon. You are remarkable, Ryan Hale." Ryan looked at her, humbled. "I don't know what to say, and say nothing," she replied with a small smile. "Let your actions speak. That is enough." The day waned, and the palace remained calm. Ryan knew the investigation was far from over. There were still questions. Still dangers hidden among the crystal corridors, but for now, they had survived. The storm, the sabotage, and the unknown threat had been met and overcome. As night approached, the palace settled into a quiet, reflective silence. Ryan sat near the central pedestal, feeling the gentle hum of energy beneath his hands. Serena stood by the window, her gaze thoughtful. "Tonight," she said softly, "we will need to be vigilant. The threat is not gone. Whoever planned this may try again. Be ready," Ryan said calmly. "We'll face it together," Serena nodded, her expression a mixture of resolve and admiration. "Yes, together." For the first time, both human and princess felt a connection beyond duty or tradition. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear, and emerged stronger. Ryan realized that his presence had changed something in the palace and, perhaps something in Serena as well. She had begun to see humans not as fragile outsiders, but as beings of resilience, courage, and loyalty. And Ryan understood that this was only the beginning of a story much larger than either of them. A story of trust, bravery, and the unshakable bond formed between two beings from very different worlds. Night fell on the royal moon of Aloria, and the palace glimmered under the soft light of its 3 suns, now reduced to pale reflections on the horizon. The storm had passed completely, leaving behind a calm that contrasted sharply with the chaos of the previous day. Yet the air remained tense. Ryan Hale stood near the central pedestal, his hands resting lightly on the glowing crystal, sensing the palace's energy. Everything seemed stable, but he knew better than to trust appearances. Someone had tried to sabotage this place once. There was no reason to believe they would not try again. Serena approached him, moving quietly across the polished crystal floor. Her violet eyes reflected both determination and something softer gratitude, perhaps even admiration. "Ryan," she said softly, "I have called the council. They will question you, as they question all outsiders. But I will speak on your behalf. You have saved my life and the palace itself." Ryan shook his head. "I don't need the council to approve of me. I only need to make sure you and your people are safe." Her lips pressed together briefly, then she smiled faintly. "That is exactly why I trust you. You act without seeking recognition or reward. That is rare, even among my own kind." They moved together to the council chamber, a large hall of crystal arches and polished floors. The council members, dressed in shimmering robes, turned their gaze toward them. Murmurs spread across the room as humans were seldom allowed such access, let alone into chambers normally reserved for royalty alone, Your Highness. One of the senior counselors began, his voice formal. "This human. He is an outsider. How can we be certain of his loyalty? How can we know he did not act out of ulterior motives?" Serena's eyes hardened. "Because he saved this palace when the storm threatened it, he neutralized a sabotage device that none of you even noticed. And he did it without hesitation, without complaint, and without expectation of reward." A ripple of shock moved through the council. Ryan stepped forward slightly, hands raised in a gesture of respect. "I did what I could. That is all. I am no hero. I am simply someone who saw a problem and acted to solve it." Another council member frowned. "You speak humbly, human. But words do not guarantee loyalty. Actions do." and your actions have indeed been extraordinary. Yet can you protect the princess again? Are you prepared for what may come? Ryan met their gaze evenly. Yes, I will do everything I can to ensure her safety and the stability of this palace. That is my responsibility now. Serena nodded approvingly. Then it is settled. This human shall remain under my protection. He will be recognized as an ally to Eloria. Any further attempts to harm the palace or the princess will be met with the full force of the royal security and with him by my side. The council murmured among themselves, some reluctant, some impressed. Finally, the head counselor, an elder with silver streaks in his hair, nodded. Very well. It is unprecedented, but your actions have proven your worth, human. The council acknowledges your presence and your role in this matter. Ryan inclined his head respectfully. Thank you. And the council had dispersed, leaving the two of them alone in the quiet chamber. Serena turned toward him, her expression softening. You have done more than I imagined, Ryan. Not only did you save me, but you also changed the way my people see humans. You have shown them that our allies can come from worlds they never expected. Ryan looked at her, feeling a mixture of humility and pride. I only did what anyone would do. I am just human. That is all. No, she said, shaking her head. It is more than that. You have courage, compassion, and wisdom. You are the first human I have truly trusted. In that trust, I do not give lightly. Ryan felt a warmth he had never experienced before. He had faced danger in countless worlds, but discerning the trust of a princess, changing perceptions, forming a bond that transcended species, was something different entirely. Later that evening, the palace was quiet once more. The crisis had passed, and yet the memory of the storm lingered in every shimmer of crystal, in every hum of the palace's energy. Ryan and Serena returned to the royal chamber, now secure, now stable. The pedestal glowed gently, a constant reminder of the human's role in calming the palace. I want you to rest tonight, Serena said softly. The palace is safe, but you must regain your strength. You cannot protect me if you are exhausted. Ryan shook his head. I'm fine. I will stay here as you requested. She stepped closer, her voice low and earnest. You do not understand. Last night, I asked you to sleep beside me not just because of tradition, but because I was afraid. I had never admitted fear before, not to anyone, and yet I trusted you. That is not something I do lightly. Ryan met her gaze, understanding dawning. You needed someone you could rely upon, he said gently. Not just for the palace, but for yourself.
Yes,
she admitted. And now, after all that has happened, I see you as more than an ally. I see you as someone I can trust completely. Someone whose presence brings calm and safety, not just to the palace, but to me as well. Ryan felt his heart lift. I am honored, Princess. Truly, I never expected to have such a bond even on a world so far from Earth. Serena smiled, a genuine warmth lighting her features. Then stay. Stay with me tonight, not out of duty, but because you wish to. Wish for your company, he nodded, realizing the depth of her trust. This was no longer about a job, no longer about tradition or protocol. It was about connection, about loyalty, and about shared experiences in the face of danger. He stepped closer, standing near the pedestal. The night passed slowly but peacefully. The palace remained calm, its crystal walls reflecting the soft light of the moons and stars. Ryan and Serena spoke quietly, exchanging stories of their worlds, their experiences, their hopes. She learned about human ingenuity, their courage, and their persistence. He learned about Elorian culture, their traditions, and the heavy burden of royalty. Each story, each laugh, each shared moment built a bond stronger than either had anticipated. In the morning, Ryan awoke to the gentle glow of the palace. Serena was already at the window, looking out over the vast expanse of the moon. She turned, her expression softening as she saw him awake. You slept well? She asked, her voice gentle. Better than expected, he replied with a small smile. The palace feels different now, safer. Yes, she said softly. Because you were here, and because of your courage, My people will see humans in a new light. You have changed more than the palace. You have changed perceptions, and perhaps even history. Ryan looked at her, humbled by her words. I only did what I could. That is all. No, she said firmly, stepping closer. It is more than that. You risked yourself for a stranger. You acted without hesitation, without thought of reward. You have shown me the strength of humanity, and I will not forget it. For a long moment they stood in silence, the palace humming softly around them. Ryan felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had experienced. He had traveled across the stars, faced countless dangers, and seen worlds both beautiful and deadly. Yet none of it compared to this, the trust, the bond, the recognition of courage and loyalty across worlds. Serenia finally spoke, her voice soft but resolute. Ryan, I cannot promise what the future holds. There may be more dangers, more threats. But tonight, you have my trust, and that is something I do not give lightly. Ryan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Then I will honor that trust, Princess. Whatever comes, I will stand by you. A small smile crossed her face, one of genuine warmth and relief. Thank you, Ryan. That is all I could ask for. The two of them remained in the chamber, quiet and reflective, watching the first light of dawn touch the palace spires. The crisis had passed. The palace was secure. The bond between human and princess had grown stronger than anyone could have expected. Ryan knew that his life had changed forever, that his actions had left a mark not only on the palace, but on the people of Eloria. And Serenia knew that she had found someone she could rely upon, someone whose courage and loyalty transcended species, culture, and expectation. As they finally turned toward the day ahead, the palace seemed to glow a little brighter, the hum of the crystal walls steady and strong. It was a new beginning, not only for the palace and its princess, but for the human who had come to stand by her side. And somewhere deep within the walls, in the quiet resonance of crystal and energy, it felt as if the palace itself recognized the bond forged in the face of storm and sabotage, a bond that would endure. No matter what challenges the future might bring, Ryan and Serenia walked together through the corridors. Not as stranger and princess, not as human and alien, but as allies and friends who had faced danger together and emerged stronger. And though the galaxy remained vast and unpredictable, they knew one thing with certainty. Whatever came next, they would face it together.